Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally. And you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks.
Welcome back, everybody, to Finally Clicked with Jesse Moore and
Margaret Smith. I really liked that intro.
Did you?
You jumped on it.
Just shot out like a rocket. I'm gonna say right now, you guys, that I'm on fire today, and things are probably gonna come out of my mouth. Oh my goodness!
Wouldn't normally come out. So just heads up.
We should have let you get a shot ahead of this.
Oh, I don't know. That'd probably be really dangerous.
Throwing diesel on a fire. Margaret, why are you so fired up today?
I'm fired up because we're going to talk about autonomy.
Autonomy.
A number of other reasons, but we can go into those in other podcasts later. But autonomy, it's a really hot topic because I think we've talked about communication a lot and how we work to communicate. And this is a definition that I don't think many people understand from either the ownership side or the executive assistant side, actually. I don't think a lot of people know what it is, what it actually looks like. So I think we're probably going to get some good feedback after this episode.
And that's why we're here, is to get good feedback. No, I would agree. I think autonomy is a bit of a wild animal that is rarely seen in its natural habitat.
I have to say, you refer to wild animals quite a bit in these episodes. I'm wondering if there's just like... Do you need to get a dog or something?
You have the whole unicorn thing going.
That's true.
If I were to compare autonomy to... It's more of a Sasquatch.
Okay.
There's been sightings of autonomy in businesses, but most of it is lore and folklore. Except, obviously, on Pickett Street.
Obviously, the one place where autonomy lives.
Oh, my goodness, Jesse. Do the basic stuff, like turn your phone off. But, yeah, you have to do You have to find autonomy where it lives, which hopefully is on our team every once in a while, most of the time. All right, so let's talk about why we're talking about autonomy.
Yeah.
You wrote... quite honestly, a magnificent piece on autonomy.
Oh, thank you.
I gave you a homework assignment.
You did.
Which I have to say, you always respond really well to. Like, you're not like my kids, where if they get the homework, they roll their eyes, stomp their feet.
Well, I would hope I'd advance past that, yeah.
Past the development of a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old. Yeah, no, but I had a friend who was reaching out for some coaching. And during the course of that conversation, I told her that she was having issues with her ownership group. And I told her that what she was fighting for was autonomy. Mm-hmm. What she really wanted was to not be micromanaged. She wanted free reign to do what she wanted to do, to carry out her vision. And it would benefit the ownership group if they just let her do it. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, what you're asking for, what you're looking for, is autonomy. Mm-hmm. And she said, can you define that? And I said, yeah, I think I can. I mean, I can in a few sentences. But then really, as the conversation developed, I realized that you were probably more relevant to speak to this subject. And so I asked you to write the definition of autonomy from your perspective. Mm-hmm. You did so willingly. And quite honestly, you wrote something that I thought was very moving and impactful, and you sent that to her. She presented that to the ownership group, and they responded really, really well to it. Mm.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part of it.
You didn't know that?
No. That's good.
Yeah, so they responded, and they responded by not being a helicopter parent, by really saying, okay, you know what? You've given us results so far. And all you're asking for in exchange is more freedom. Mm-hmm. More freedom to do the things that you want to do to build this business. Mm-hmm. And I think autonomy is difficult for owners to give because they just care so much about the business. Mm-hmm. They care so much about the business They started it, they built it, they grew it. It gets to a point where you hire people and you have leverage, and then there's some transition that has to take place where they freely give you the opportunity to build this thing into something bigger or burn it to the ground.
Wow.
And that's kind of how you have to look at it. You have to know, Margaret, that when I give you autonomy, there's consequences to that for me. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. If I give autonomy to the wrong person, mm-hmm. they burn my house down. Mm-hmm. If I give autonomy to the right person, they help build my business and make it bigger.
They build a mother-in-law in the back, and you're creating additional income. Well, I was gonna start off by asking you, what is it that's so hard about it from an ownership standpoint? And I think you said it right off the bat. It's that you've built something, and the next step for you as an owner and as a leader, in order to grow past that point, in order to grow out of your pot, like you talk about in your class, you have to find someone else that you can trust who can earn it. And I think earning autonomy is a part that we don't talk a lot about enough from the executive assistant standpoint. You didn't just give me autonomy, I earned it. And I think in order for any owner to do that, to give it away, that's what that other person has to do. Absolutely, is to earn your trust and go from there. So
I would say that there is a half-life to autonomy. And what I mean by that is that it's not something you give somebody right out of the gates. Mm-hmm. Instead, it is something that is earned. So I would say if you're listening and you're in the first 12 months of a position, mm-hmm. I wouldn't be stomping my feet asking for autonomy. No. However, if you've been in that position for 18 plus months and you've proven you have a track record of either making good decisions or in including the ownership group in your growth and really really showing them that you have a track record, now that's when you can start to ask for mm-hmm. more freedom, mm-hmm. more power, more autonomy. Mm-hmm. Where we first came, do you know how we first started talking about it? About autonomy? Mm-hmm. Like what book we were reading specifically? Was it Drive? Yes. Yeah. So Drive by Daniel Pink is an amazing book. That's a good one for just, I refer to this book all the time. Mm-hmm. It was challenging for me to read it as a business owner because Daniel Pink basically, the basic premise of the book is, how do you reward top talent? How do you incentivize top talent? Mm-hmm. Meaning, okay, like these people are essential to your team. They are probably already compensated well. And once their basic needs are met, what's the best way to incentivize them? And what Daniel Pink found in the course of this book is that money was not the incentivizer. Once people had enough money to pay their bills, take care of their family, that money in and of itself wasn't enough to keep people around. Mm-hmm. And that more than anything, what they wanted was autonomy. What mm-hmm. they wanted was the freedom to do business their way, to do their job their way, mm-hmm. and then recognition of doing a good job. Mm-hmm. That those things were more important than getting a $10,000 bonus. Or even, I think in the book, I don't have the book in front of me, but I want to say that even with the option of like a 20% wage increase, these subjects would choose autonomy. Mm-hmm. And so what we did as a team, I joke about this all the time, is we read books to make everybody accountable to the things that we are learning, mm-hmm. including me. And it works. Right? I'm not exempt from these things. No. And this was the first book we read where it made me super uncomfortable because it basically told us to throw away the time cards, mm-hmm. to throw away clocking in and clocking out. Which I think at that time I'd been there for about 8 months. And yeah, I had never clocked in before somewhere. No, that's not true. I clocked in at the museum. But I had not done time cards like that in such a long time. I didn't think twice about it, though. But then when we read the book and you just said, we're doing away with these, I was impressed that you made a decision that fast based off something we read. Because I hadn't seen somebody do that. I have to. If I ask you guys to be accountable to the things that we read, mm-hmm. and then I read something that challenges me and makes me uncomfortable, I'm still have to be held accountable to it. Mm-hmm. And so we got rid of time cards. And the reason we started with time cards is based on the recommendation of somebody.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, I try not to get business advice from lawyers and CPAs. Mm-hmm. I appreciate their advice, but their advice is to keep you out of trouble and to reduce liability. Reducing liability is great, but it's not going to grow your business. Mm-hmm. And so,
well, and based on the talent that you had in my position before, it makes sense to me that that was never argued, or there was never even a topic that came up.
Right. It was never an issue for anybody prior to you and maybe one other person on the team at the time. Mm-hmm. And so, a CPA told us that we needed to have people clock in, clock out, and I believe that, and we did it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel good, honestly. I think it's you feel like a factory worker. It definitely is a cattle call.
It slows down the work week to the point of where you're looking at those hours when you submit them every week, and you're thinking that was 8 hours every day for 5. I mean, it makes it you really feel like you're at that job. You're not at
punching. You feel like it's a factory, right, or a mill. And so, I didn't love time cards to begin with, but I do like not paying. I do like not overcompensating people, and I like having a record to refer back to. But as we read Drive by Daniel Pink, he was pretty clear in saying, if you want to reward your employees and you want to reward your top tier people especially, throw the clock away. Mm-hmm. Let them come in when they want. Let them leave when they want. Let them go on vacation when they want. This is what autonomy looks like. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And so, with that book, we threw away the time clock and we threw away the time cards.
Yep.
And we started a policy of people being able to come in when they wanted and leave when they wanted, go on vacation when they wanted, with some basic baseline rules, which were what, Margaret?
If you left for vacation, you just always had to make sure that your job was covered and got done. So I did take vacation between then and when I hired Sarah Trotsky, but I took it very carefully, and I took it at times when I knew we weren't going to be as busy, and I had to make more accommodations that way. But now that she's here, she and I can cover for each other. So, and just not having the basic idea of not having to track your time and track vacation. Actually, it's one of those habits that we're talking a lot about habits lately. You can let go of that and frees up your mind to do other things. I don't need to be thinking about the fact that I only have 5 days of vacation left. That in and of itself, that would be depressing to me. So, I mean, I love it. I love it like nothing else. It's definitely, I think it motivates me. It motivates Sarah. And also it helps, I think, probably the ownership to understand who's motivated within the company and who's inspired to.
Well, that was an interesting study, right? At the time when I did it, Daniel Pink says in the book, if you do this, your employees will come in earlier and stay later. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. But it absolutely happened. Mm-hmm. When we threw away the time clock and threw away the time cards, people came in sooner, they stayed longer, and there's less, the breaks were less, lunch breaks were less, vacation requests went down, quite honestly. They didn't go up. It was counterintuitive to what you would think would happen. Mm-hmm. And I did it for a 6-month trial period and didn't look back, right? Like we haven't changed it since.
No.
And for those of you that are listening thinking, no, this can't be true or this can't work, listen, people still have to show up. Because of the rules that we have in place, you still can't affect other people's work. Mm-hmm. So if people are here at 8:45, 9 o'clock, and you're not here, that could affect someone else's job, then you're outside the rules. Mm-hmm. So people were, for the chance to not clock in, not clock out, to have, this autonomy, they're willing to come in earlier. They're willing to be more consistent. They're willing to stay later. Mm-hmm. And we just had powerful dynamic results from trying this out. Mm-hmm. So that was where this began. Fast forward to this recent coaching session where this person, all they wanted was autonomy. Mm-hmm. and you write the definition of autonomy. Should we go over that?
Sure.
And for those of you that are listening and can't, I know we don't have this visibly available anywhere, like on YouTube or anything, but if you want to go to our website, Pickett Street, Pickett, street spelled out, .com, and go to our blog, we'll have this published where you can read along with us as we discuss it. Mm-hmm. But Margaret, why don't you tell us about your autonomy blog?
Sure. So to start off with, I was like, okay, let's go to the dictionary definition of autonomy and then go from there. So in the dictionary, I think it was dictionary.com, it said autonomy is the quality or state of being independent, free, and self-directing. So that's a pretty basic definition. So from there, I wanted to take it the Mo way and make Mo's definition. So mine is the definition of autonomy in the context of a business partnership and company is the ability to carry out a vision however I determine with the best interest of those it will impact in mind. So the way I think about it is what would make most sense to someone outside of me, outside of Pickett Street, that would include not only the best interest of the company, but the people that it impacts within the company. So I'm always thinking about not just me and what I do, but how it impacts people around me. So that's how I came up with the definition. And then I always like examples because I think a lot of times people just give a definition and then don't actually go into detail about what that looks like.
Can I stop you before we get too far? So on your definition of autonomy, what I kind of love about it is the ability to carry out a vision however I determine. Mm-hmm. So we've mentioned on here before, I feel like I am kind of the visionary, having the ideas, and you're the implementer, implementing those ideas. Mm-hmm. What's great about giving you autonomy is that things get done faster, right? If you're waiting for my direction and my, broad strokes or even fine strokes on what this is supposed to look like, it would take too long. Yeah. And nothing would get done. Yeah. Or far less would get done. Mm-hmm. So what I love about your definition is the ability to carry out a vision. And that vision is shared. It's a shared vision that's either handed down from the top or created from within or as a collective. Mm-hmm. And then however you determine, because you're the implementer and you think with efficiency and proficiency in mind, with the best interest of those it'll impact in mind. So I love this definition because this is how you streamline a business. How you streamline. I mean, and we're a small organization. If we had, it's got to be more challenging when you have 50 people.
Oh, yeah.
To get the consensus from people, get the vision, and then implement it. But if by granting autonomy, you skip over so many pieces, so many middlemen.
Yeah. And this has actually helped me a lot as I give things up to Sarah, because I don't want to know how they get done. I know what I need help with and what I need done after I get it from you. And so to just be able to give her something, have her execute it and fail forward, we can come back and we can look at the process that she developed, and I can help her because that's my job, to make sure that she's implementing how I would implement, or in a similar fashion at least, with as much efficiency. But it's really helped me to understand that I don't need to know how everything runs completely. Like, I don't know how to run the TC part of the business. I've never been a TC. I don't execute that paperwork. I don't need to. If I felt like I needed to, if I had that super type A personality, it would actually slow me down tremendously. So I think with this whole idea of autonomy, what I've learned in the last 6 years is I'm much more about asking for forgiveness than permission now. And so I actually had to explain this morning in an email to the office, because I was talking with the education committee about bringing in someone to speak. And I said there in the email, I said, I'm trying to slow down because I've been told that I need to slow down in order to garner support and, help other people understand what I'm trying to do before I do it sometimes. So that's what autonomy, like you giving me autonomy, has really helped me develop, because I have the only way I'm able to do all these things that I do and run as fast as I do is because you gave me the chance to try it. And I hadn't had that before.
Yeah, so again, I want to make sure that people understand that there's a timeline to this, and that when you first get your job, you should be fighting for every piece of it to take control of it and to show your supervisor or your authority figure or whoever that you have a grasp of what is necessary and that you know what to do and how to do it, how to carry it out. And then once that's done, then the reward should be autonomy.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough for admin that are listening out there. I talk to so many of you that are only a year in or less than a year in and are already vying for that title of director of operations, or not even the title, but they're vying for bigger opportunities. And I'm like, slow down, because you haven't earned anything yet. And I absolutely spent those first 2 years earning every bit of it. And consciously sitting back and saying to myself, Margaret, it's not your time yet. It's just your time to observe, learn the business, learn how people operate. Because I should not, in my opinion, have an opinion of a project or something in another industry when I have no idea how it operates. So I think oftentimes people just don't understand what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so I push back on admin all the time because I think from our side of it, you absolutely have to be the person who understands that you have a lot to learn. And it's not until you've earned the right that you get that autonomy.
And I'll say this to executives or business owners that are listening. The hard part about autonomy is allowing people to make mistakes and allowing people not only to make mistakes, but to make mistakes when you could be liable for it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it really separates the wheat from the chaff. It's a biblical term.
Okay.
Basically, it separates the fruit from the weeds. Okay. So basically, if I gave you autonomy and I gave someone else autonomy, and you don't make mistakes or you make very few mistakes, and the other person cost me $15,000, I've learned something. There's a valuable lesson in that. Even though there's a loss, I have learned something from it. And we have examples in our organization where people were given autonomy maybe before they were ready. And it cost me money. And I can think of very few examples where you've cost me money.
And every time I did, I actually found a way to get it back. Like, I'm thinking of the hotel specifically in Vegas when I booked the wrong hotel.
Yeah.
And I panicked because that was $5,000. But sorry, you caught me off guard a minute ago because the more you're talking, the more I'm like, I think actually from the executive standpoint, the hardest part is finding it's finding that person who's going to deserve the autonomy. So you're basically going through a lineup of people until you find someone who doesn't. I mean, how long do you go before you move on to the next one? And okay, is this one going to provide me with what I need in order to give them autonomy? Like, that part is exhausting. Well, and for me, it's exhausting too.
No, it is. And so, I mean, for executives, if you found somebody and they're talented and you pay them on the top end of the industry average, I'm telling you to keep them there. This is how you reward them. You need to give them the freedom to screw up. And you know what? If you handle that correctly, they won't want to leave. Part of the reason we're still working with me is you know that if you make a mistake or screw up, you know how I'm going to respond to it. How am I going to respond?
In an understanding manner. That's like, we'll figure it out together. You give me the opportunity to fix it if I can myself, which I am always trying to, which I did on that trip down to Vegas. I thought about the whole way what I was going to do. When we landed, I was in the airport on my laptop, figuring it out right there. Even then, I didn't need to do that. But yeah, your response is always, we can figure it out together. It's understanding that I didn't purposefully do it. I didn't purposely go and say, I'm going to go cost Jesse $10,000. Right. Obviously.
Yeah. And I think the younger, more impetuous version of myself was prone to exaggerated nonverbal communication, meaning I would roll my eyes and I would gasp and sigh and throw my hands up, right? And I learned very quickly that didn't work with you.
Yeah.
And so I had to be like, okay, I had to figure out tools and tricks to like calm myself down, to just listen, to diffuse the situation and be understanding and move forward. That was easy to do when the other option is you leaving.
Yeah. Because when you responded that way, then you saw the best part of Margaret come out. This problem solver who was going to I wasn't going to walk away from the problem. I was going to work at it till I fixed it.
And really, by us going through situations like that, it then freed you of deciding whether to stay or go. Like, you didn't have to think about what's next or, am I in a safe environment?
I think that's where people feel a lot of fear too. I don't think executives realize that reaction that you described, the physical reaction for us. I don't know if it's a personality thing with the SC in me. I don't deal well with people that are reactive physically and vocally with their voice. Like, because my parents, I don't know if that's how I was raised or if it's a personality thing, but my parents were not reactive. And so I told them everything because I had no fear of retribution, no fear of, and I don't know, I'm less afraid of that now. I can absolutely handle people screaming at me. Do I want it all day long or parts? No, that would make I would be like a roller coaster. I'd be an emotional wreck. But for a lot of EAs, there's a lot of this fear. We actually just talked about this last week as a group. When you took away that fear of retribution, that's when my real creative side, I think, came out.
Yeah.
Because when I can act fearlessly and knowing that you support me and that you know and understand and trust that I want to do the best for the company, that's when the real cool stuff starts to happen. So. And
I've told you to slow down before.
Oh, sure.
Like, I've said, hey, next time you run this by me.
Sure. Yeah.
I've said that in the last month.
Yeah.
And so it's not like we have telekinesis and you.
Not at all. No.
Telepathy. Telekinesis is moving things with your mind. Sorry. But it's not like we have telepathy where we can read our minds, each other's minds. We have to communicate. And so
it's like a puzzle that's constantly evolving, a puzzle that's getting bigger, and each piece, like, it's always a work in progress.
If something doesn't go the way I want it to, I tell you. Mm-hmm. I tell you why, and then I tell you next time run it by me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then next time, if I know that you've applied the things I mentioned, then autonomy is given back. Mm-hmm. All right, so continue on. What does autonomy actually look like according to Margaret?
So then I have these two sections. What does it look like and what does it not look like? So it actually looks like weekly meetings with leadership to ensure we're on the same page, which we've talked about. I set my work hours. I come and go as I determine from my office. I set the meetings, prioritize my duties, plan and execute in the way that I know is most efficient and best. I create the environment, which includes the physical office environment and the mental environment I want, the camaraderie. And then when given a project and a budget, once I understand the why, I execute that project how I determine is best and however I want. So those are just some examples that when I thought through like my daily activities, what sentence could I write that would make someone in leadership understand what that physically looks like?
Yeah, I don't know if this applies. I know it applies to the conversation overall. I don't know if this is the right time for it, but I'm going to say it before I forget it. I guess this is going to be my theme as we talk about it. From the executive standpoint, if you embrace this, what I have to be super clear on is your people will not leave you because they have to find an environment that provides this same thing. And there's very few environments that provide that. Mm-hmm. There's very few places Margaret could go that would provide weekly meetings with leadership to ensure we're on the same page, that would allow you to set your own work hours, to come and go as you determine from the office, to set meetings, prioritize duties, plan and execute in the way you know is most efficient and best, on and on and on. Like, by giving you that sense of autonomy, and Daniel Pink said this in his book, by giving people autonomy, they found that not only were they less likely to leave, but that their loved ones were less likely to let them leave. Mm-hmm. That literally their entire family supported the role and the position. Mm-hmm. All right, so what does autonomy not look like?
Someone telling me when I should come and go, someone telling me how to organize myself, someone telling me how to execute on a project, someone telling me I need to check in with them before I execute on something, someone telling me how to arrange my office, someone who does not trust me to do what I say I'm going to do.
All right, let's unpack these one at a time. Someone telling me when I should come and go. So tell me why that's important to you.
Well, number one, I hate being told what to do. I do. And I think that's what I've always detested about the title of assistant, because it implies that you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And if that were the case, again, I would not be here. I would not be anywhere where that title was. In a corporate environment, a lot of times that's what assistant does mean. And while I do have a servant heart and I do love to serve people, I serve people the way I want to. Ultimately, that's the super stubborn part of me that I don't think a lot of executives could actually handle. And while a lot of people admire the partnership that we have, I don't think they'd actually want to employ me. I don't think they'd like me. I really don't. I say that completely honestly, because if they met this part of me, they would forget about all the good stuff they see on social media. They'd forget about the stuff you say about me. That stubbornness that's a leader in me, and I'm not going to deny that. So, that being said, at the same time that I go through this list, I think people have to remember there's a respect here too that I have for you. So obviously I'm not running out the door.
No, and I was going to address that too.
If we have a meeting at 10:10, I know, I'm an adult. I know when the meeting starts.
So I think there's two ways to read these statements, right? You could read this as a negative. Someone telling me when I should come and go, meaning I don't, like you said, I don't like being told what to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a 2-year-old version of that, right? Which is I throw a fit and I don't act rationally when you tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. That is not what we're talking about. By you having the freedom to come and go as you want, that means you do more things before you come to work. Mm-hmm. And you do more things before you leave work. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, on the way in, you might go to the store and get someone a bouquet of flowers for their birthday. Mm-hmm. Or you might get someone a coffee who's had a rough week. Yeah. It allows you the autonomy to go out and do whatever's necessary and not be impacted by arriving at the office at a certain time. Yeah. On the flip side, it means that you can leave early to do things in preparation for the next day or in preparation for a client appreciation event. Or it allows you to go out and plan proactively for anything that's coming up. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, and I've told you, I've been very clear about this, I'd much rather have you here in the morning than in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And if we could structure your day to where it's optimized in the morning and you cut out in the mid to late afternoon, I have zero problems with that. Mm-hmm. But I also know when the magic happens. I know when the work happens. Mm-hmm. And most of that happens in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to go over that. So the next one, someone telling me how to organize myself.
That's a really stupid one. If someone ever told me how to organize myself, I would run away from that.
Be like me telling you what to wear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your job is to organize me, right? Like, that's part of your job is to organize our entire office. Yeah. And you do that. You come in and you clean up my desk before I get there in the morning. Why? Because I'm not an organizational maestro. I have a hard time doing that because I'm busy being busy, right? And me slowing down to get myself organized is not the best use of my time. And quite honestly, you're far better at it. So yeah, you should have the freedom to manage that yourself. Someone telling you how to execute on a project. Yeah, so this doesn't mean that I don't go to people that have done something before, like start a podcast or build a studio room. I didn't start that all on my own. I went to at least 3 other people and asked them how they had done it, what they had used, what they recommended. But I did that on my own, and I went and I just figured out how to execute it on my own. And if I had any questions, I asked people. But again, it goes back to not telling me what to do. If you're going to tell me, Margaret, I need you to get to LA, I'd much rather figure out how to do it on my own, what works best for me, than have someone tell me what works best for them. It's a preference. And I think it's freedom. If somebody told me how to do every part of my job, there'd be no creativity or spontaneity or fun in that. And plus, it's taking the person who's telling you time out of their day. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you have to feel like you have to do that for someone on a project, if you have to do that for an admin, then you probably hired the wrong person. Yeah, I was just reminding myself to let everyone know that, if you're an admin and you're listening to this and you desire autonomy, I hope to heaven you're proactive. I mean, because if you're not proactive and you're not looking for things to do without being told to do those things, then you're never going to have autonomy. Yeah. Like, you have to be deserving of it. You have to show, hey, not only am I going to get everything done, I'm going to be proactive. Like you said before, that you measure the success in our relationship on a daily basis by how little we have to communicate.
Yeah, if I don't need to, I know that what I need to ask you on a weekly basis now probably would take me no more than a half an hour tops about the most important pieces of the business. all the other stuff that happens that we communicate on is just, extra and additional. It's not really the super high priority things.
All right, someone telling me I need to check in with them before I execute on something.
Yeah, I think in this situation it was happening a lot with that woman that you were coaching, and I think it goes back to just trust. And if there's some particular part of a project or a big piece of the business that we're planning on executing, I would absolutely check in with you if I felt like I needed to. But if I didn't, I would just go for it. Again, yeah.
Someone telling me how to arrange my office.
Again, that's a stupid one. If somebody ever told me that, I would show them pictures of my bedroom from when I was like 5 years old, when I displayed that's again a skill that I've had.
Someone who does not trust me to do what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah, I hate that one. And again, that one's earned. Like, you had to earn your trust for sure. If I didn't have it by now, that would be a problem.
Okay. And your blog continues on.
Yeah, so I wrote, there's a clear correlation between autonomy and motivation. So I found this article called Instilling Autonomy to Boost Motivation, and I'll put a link in the blog as well. But it just had some really fantastic quotes, and one from Albert Einstein that I'll just read out loud is, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gifted." And so he goes on to say, using our intuitive mind, we're using more than just our five senses. It's almost like knowing without knowing why. And arguably, it's also what makes things interesting to us. It takes us out of our comfort zone and makes us want to learn more about the matter. So the reason I like that is because I think a lot of times when I run into A-plus players that are in operations, there is an intuitive side to them. I'm able to understand what you need before you need it because I know you now. And that is not a skill, actually, that everybody has. And so I think as a society, owners want to understandably go with what they know. They want to go with the faithful servant who has the rational mind because they know what the outcome's going to be. It's safe. It's a comfort zone. If you go with someone that might have a gift that you don't know or don't know how to understand, because I know there's parts of me that you don't understand, that's more of a risk. But I've earned your trust. I've shown you the ROI, like the steps that we've taken for you to understand what my gifts are have made this possible. So I'll share that article in there.
There might be a secret in this, in that I'm just realizing about us is that we're both empaths to some degree. Mm-hmm. I mean, and all I mean by that is we do trust our intuition. Mm-hmm. And I'm just realizing how much that is true of both of us. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if there's a causality of that linked to autonomy.
Linked to autonomy.
In that I know you and I'm intuitive, and I know that I just wonder if being intuitive helps.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a great idea. I think that's probably a really totally possible conclusion. Yeah.
So I think learning to listen to your gut and learning to trust your gut. Mm-hmm. I've mentioned before, we're reading this book called Atomic Habits, and they talked in there today about how, there are people that can do something that maybe can't be measured, mm-hmm. but they can do it consistently mm-hmm. and not know why. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that could be like stopping a record at the same place repeatedly, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where they're not physically measuring, but by mastering a certain skill and by trusting their intuition, mm-hmm. they are able to achieve almost supernatural type. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I totally believe that, but then that I love that stuff. I mean, I absolutely have come to understand that my gut and my instinct over the last 6 years totally has a part in a play in my success.
Not only that, I don't think people give you enough credit for it.
I would agree. That's a very good statement. Yes.
No, I mean,
I would.
When people, this has come up before, and I hate talking about it, and I hate talking about it as much as it comes up.
What do you mean?
Which is, why are you still with Pickett Street?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you still with Jesse? Mm-hmm. Why are you still working with Jesse?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that people don't understand how much you trust your judgment, mm-hmm. how much you trust your intuition. Mm-hmm. And if your intuition told you to be elsewhere, you wouldn't be here.
Yes.
And if your judgment told you to be elsewhere, you wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Right?
And you're right. People don't give me credit for that.
They don't give you credit.
That makes me very angry.
Yeah, and you deserve a lot of credit for following your gut, trusting your instincts, and saying, I don't know why, but this is going to get me where I want to go.
Yeah, 100%. That makes me want to cry. Totally.
Oh, let's see if we can make Margaret cry today.
No, I think that's a real sore spot for me. And I used to talk about this with you a lot in the first 2 years when we were going through those personality assessments, because intuition kept coming out. It came out in the Myers-Briggs with Elise. It came out, I think, with not the DISC, but another, maybe the Enneagram. And I never felt like it was confirmed from outside people with me. I always felt like it was absolutely something that people countered with me on all the time. They argued with me on it. They said, no, what do you mean? And now for the first time, I feel like in any job and in life, I'm actually bringing to fruition what I've been wanting to do in my personal life and my professional life. And now people are starting to see what they think of as magic, or like this, how's she doing this kind of thing. And so that's absolutely like a huge desire of mine, that's part of me. That's part of being myself. And so, no, thank you for saying that. I think it's totally true. And it's a constant battle for me to feel like I have people on my side that understand that part of me, and whether they understand it or not totally, they support me in that. So, and I found that in a couple other people too, that when you stumble across those people who, I think it's a rare thing to really trust yourself and trust your gut. And I've learned to do that because there's too many things that have gone right from that.
Well, not only is that rare, but finding other people that let you operate that way is rare, right? Even being friends with somebody and them allowing you to trust your gut. Friends love to tell each other what to do
all the time,
right? And what to think, and give them advice. And quite honestly, that's when friendships get weird, is when you lose that sense of autonomy in a friendship to screw up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And because anytime someone says, I told you so, it's a loss, I think.
It is, totally. And this might be going off topic, but I think a lot of people could probably relate to this. I feel like for the first half of my life, I was very much the friend that was always, I was everything to everyone. I've been told that a lot. And I'm no longer that, because I am investing in myself and and because I know when I invest in myself that it'll actually impact everyone at a much higher level. I've had to be much more discernment over who my friends are and who I choose to spend time with. And I know that hurts people's feelings, because I love that they love to be around me. And at the same time, I have to take care of myself too. And I've said that before in another podcast. I think admin, and a lot of times, are very intuitive, caring, empathetic people. And we don't take care of ourselves, and we limit our success by that. I'm never going to limit my success because I don't take care of myself before I take care of other people. So my friendships have changed a lot in the last 5 years. You know that. And then recently, I think I told you this last week, that I feel like I'm doing nothing but drawing lines in the sand. Line. And I realized that comes with autonomy too. Is when you come with autonomy and with leadership comes responsibility to handle that well.
To explain visually what you did this week is, you're like, I feel like I draw a line, and she drew a line like in front of herself, and then she turned 90 degrees and then drew another line, and then turned 90 degrees and drew another line.
Yes, Margaret doesn't draw lines like that normally. Now Margaret's going to talk about herself in the third person. Like, I think Iris is having an effect on me.
Yeah, but no, it is. I think as you get older and wiser, you learn to have boundaries that protect you from getting hurt. Because I think when you're young, you have this naivete that says everything's going to work out. Nothing will hurt me. And over time, you learn that that's not true, that humans are fallible, and even the people that care about you the most can hurt you. And at some point, you realize the only person you can control is you. And so you stop putting yourself in situations where bad things happen. If you see a track record, note it, modify it, draw a line, move, draw a line, move. Eventually, you'll find yourself on a safe island. You might be by yourself, but you'll be on a safe island. And I jest, because eventually you'll find yourself with the few people that care about you enough to let you be you. And that's what I'm always searching for. It's just the freedom to be me. That's all autonomy is. It's the freedom to be you.
Yeah. And I think if there was a message I could push out there to admin that are listening as a final, like, if you want that autonomy and you believe that you have the leader who will give it to you, then spend the time earning it. And if you've spent the time, you think you've done everything possible to show why you deserve that autonomy. If you're not getting it, then that's a conversation to be had with the owner.
I think there's 2 challenges too we could issue.
Yeah.
If you're an admin and Christmas bonuses are coming soon, holiday bonuses, whatever, Kwanzaa, whatever we're calling it.
December bonus, yeah. End of year.
Maybe not. Don't ask for a financial bonus. Ask for autonomy.
That's a good
on some
challenge.
level.
Yeah.
Like find if this is important to you and you're not getting it, instead of a financial bonus,
that's a really good idea.
Some way that you can make your job more autonomous. I promise you, your executive will be more receptive to the idea of saving money and giving you what you want at the same time. I had an idea for that on the flip side with the executive, which is try giving out autonomy. Try giving them some aspect of autonomy. Make sure you are having the weekly conversations. Here's the thing. Don't go into this blind. Don't go in there thinking you're Santa and you're going to give someone a pony who doesn't want a pony.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Like
Yes.
it has to match.
Yeah, what they want.
And so you still have to listen. You still have to be a good human. You have to be like, oh, I care about you enough that I've paid attention to the words that come out of your mouth when you talk about the things that you like to do and what's important to you.
Yeah.
And is that money? Is that vacation? Is that travel? Or is that the ability maybe to throw the timestamp away?
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say it like that because it reminds me of there was an agent who was asking me about the different bonuses that I've received just like last month. And we were chatting and I said, oh yeah. And last year you had given me 60,000 bonus air miles to use for travel. And he said, interesting. So he listened to what you like to do. And then he responded in that way with the bonus. And I said, yeah, isn't that, he listened and then he responded and he was like, genius. It was so simple, but so many people don't listen. And I'm glad that you went back to that meeting on a weekly basis because as boring as that sounds, it's not happening in most places. It's not happening. It's not happening in our own office for a lot of people. So
well, and that'll be a future podcast. Is we'll just talk about bonuses and the creative ways you can bonus your admin.
I think that would help people a lot. As surprisingly, people don't think about different ways to do that.
All right, do you want to finish your blog post?
Oh, sure. So let's see. The last bit I guess I'll just say is the last bit of that quote. So focus on making that conscious effort to allow the right balance between rational and intuitive to emerge in your organization. Give your employees the freedom to make their own judgments, to decide for themselves whether using their gut instinct or staying away from it is the right thing to do in every other circumstance they face. After all, they are the experts in the field. And trust me, they'll come to you for advice if they're truly unsure of what they're doing. So absolutely, that's if I ever am questioning myself and I don't have that first gut instinct of this is the right thing to do, I absolutely run it by you. I run it by Sarah. I run it by people around me because
I know.
there's so many things that could pop up, and I would never want anything to impact the business in a negative way. So
no, it's actually funny that last line, how important it is. And trust me, they'll come to you for advice if they're truly unsure of what they're doing. I don't know. It's not like you're Maverick and you're gonna be. Maverick is the character in Top Gun Tom Cruise, right?
Tom Cruise, yeah.
And he does wild and crazy things, like flies by the tower. And
he's so cute.
Right? Okay, like that's not an admin. Admin aren't going around requesting flybys. You know what I mean? They're not like, I don't know what to do, so let's just see what happens if I do this. That's not how it works at all. Like that profile is the least likely.
Yes, we're the most careful.
I'm gonna do that. I do that all the time.
Yeah, I'm more fly by the seat of my pants than most admin. And I still run things by you. So, yeah, you don't have to, if anything, you're probably going to have to teach that admin that you do trust them.
Right.
It's going to take more of you pushing stuff back at them and saying, hey, I know you're going to do the right thing, Margaret. Hey, I know you're going to do this the right way. I trust you. And if I came, absolutely. They will come to you. Those SEs they're people pleasers. They want to do things the right way. They want to do well, and they want to be praised for it. So you can bet they're going to come to you and say, hey, I'm not sure what to do on this, if they really have a question. Otherwise, you probably don't want to hear from them. You don't want to hear how to order office supplies or how to book that hotel, or how to even change the sales department in a better, I mean, there's all sorts of things that we do, from booking hotels to changing the business to marketing. And you don't want to hear about those things if you don't. You want to be focusing on the things you need to do to grow your business. So,
yeah, I mean, if you ask me what to do on social media, I never get anything done.
No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And our social media presence would be worse.
And you don't enjoy it.
I don't.
No.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
We can talk about why Jesse hates social media some other time. I already sound like an old curmudgeon.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Well, this is obvious. We felt like we needed to do this because it comes up all the time. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's such an easy hack, It's such an easy hack in deepening that relationship between the admin and the executive. And then it's just such a great hack for keeping people.
Yeah, last question just popped into my mind as you were talking. I wonder if sometimes people are afraid to do this, if owners are afraid to give it to their EA for fear that they'll know right away that person's not a good fit. Like maybe it speeds up that whole process of, oh, gave them that autonomy and they ruined it. They did not handle it well. Like, I wonder if that's a fear at all.
As an executive, I want to know sooner than later.
I would think, right? Yeah.
Gary Keller addressed this. Gary Keller, founder of Keller Williams. I saw someone asked him this question basically, which is like, how quickly do I give someone their role? Oh. Like, how quickly can I let them just run with it without oversight? Mm-hmm. And Gary walked up to him holding the two corners of a book and offering the other two corners to this gentleman. And he goes, okay, here, take this. And he fought with it awkwardly for 5 minutes with this guy. And he goes, this is how I give a job away. Okay. You have to fight for it. Yeah. You have to take it from me. Mm-hmm. You have to show me you want it and that you don't want my oversight. And you're going to prove to me time and time again that you're worthy and deserving of me relinquishing this to you. Mm-hmm. And then once that's done, I never want to see that book again. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see that job again. Mm-hmm. That's your job now. You've earned it. You've taken it from me. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that, anything short of that is a disaster. Mm-hmm. If you give the book away too early, you give the role away too early, they don't know what they're doing or how to do it or the parameters or expectations in how to do it. And if you hang on to it too long, they're going to get fed up and go find someone else's book. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like they're going to go somewhere where you're the best example of this. You went to work for someone else for 6 weeks. You interrupted my interview process to go work for someone else for 6 weeks. Your interview process. And during that 6 weeks, they wouldn't let you
touch the book.
Can we talk to the degree of which they wouldn't let you do things?
Sure.
You told me a story about setting up a meeting room, right, for people. Mm-hmm. And where things were positioned on the table had to be manipulated by degrees.
Everything had to be within inches. Yeah.
And so you weren't given the freedom to manage that because you didn't have this
I wouldn't do it correctly.
Yeah. And quite honestly, did it matter?
No.
Right. So he lost a very valuable employee who could have given him leverage because he was more concerned with being a control freak than in having a successful business. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to be careful of, executives. This is what you have to be careful of. If you care too much about your level of control, your level of control over the details, man, then you might not deserve an assistant.
You might just be an entrepreneur on your own. It's a one-man business.
One-man business, one-man woman.
Yeah.
Whirly gig. Yeah, you have to be able. Believe me, am I not a control freak?
Oh, 100%.
I am a control freak. So, admittedly, I am. Mm-hmm. And I learned that if I wanted to have a healthy life, professionally and personally, I can't be a control freak at all times on everything. Mm-hmm. I can set expectations, and I can find talented people that I can trust to operate within those expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's regardless. If you want to build a team, if you want to build a company, you better start getting better with people. You better start learning how to let go of some control. Otherwise, you don't really want to build a company because a company is filled with humans, and you have to be able to understand and have some self-awareness around what you do and how you control things and whether or not you can really let go of some of that stuff. And if you can't, maybe it's not for you.
And I hope no one thinks that way.
Yeah.
I hope everybody thinks about how they can become a better leader and a better boss and a better admin to work together. Because there's just, you just can't get there fast enough without people.
And I think this goes beyond business too. It applies to society and to life. If you want a big life, you got to learn how to talk to other humans. You got to humanize everything.
Yeah, you can be a control freak. You can also work more than you should and not be able to go on vacation and not have a life and not see your family.
Yep.
That sounds fun.
No.
No fun. So autonomy, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
That's a good one. Yes, I'll post the blog to our website and would love to hear your feedback on this episode.
Also, just because we haven't said it before, I will remind you that I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Washington, specifically north of Seattle. We service Seattle. We service a pretty large territory because we have a team and because of the nature of the geography here. So if you know anyone that needs to buy or sell real estate in the state of Washington or anywhere else for that matter, please let us know and we'd be happy to help them. If we can't help them ourselves, we will make sure that we pair them with a very qualified person that can help them. But if you have any real estate needs in the Seattle, Puget Sound area, please let us know. We'd love to help them. And that's what we have. Like we certainly do this to benefit other people. And let's just be mindful that we're also in real estate, and we'd love to help your friends.
Love to help people. Yeah. And I'm an unlicensed executive assistant or director of operations, so I will not be doing the real estate, but I absolutely refer people to my team all the time and talk to people a lot about the duplex renovations that I've done and the rehabs. And so we're a team full of a ton of different resources. You can totally reach out to at any time.
All right. Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays.